What is anemia? Instead of showing you what anemia is with some lab values, I thought I would show you anemia in 3D. Anemia is a problem with these guys here. These are red blood cells. We have 25 trillion red blood cells floating around in our blood. Blood gets its red color from these cells, and they're basically little bags of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is what grabs oxygen from the air we breathe in our lungs, clings onto it, and then drops it off everywhere throughout the body. Now, before we head into our imaginary TikTok laboratory, let me show you how we got here. The first ever picture of red blood cells came from this man here, Antony van Leeuwenhoek, who created this microscope. Yes, this is a microscope. It looks a lot different from the microscopes we use today. He drew out red blood cells for the first time, and they looked like little donuts. And now today, through these modern microscopes, this is what blood looks like. But I think it's more fun to create and look at red blood cells in 3D. So let's head to this imaginary TikTok laboratory. We start with a tube of blood, and we'll make it see-through so we can see the red blood cells inside of them. And we'll spread them out and focus on one. We'll crown him king, because I do call myself the heme queen. So the red blood cell is made up of hundreds of millions of hemoglobin molecules. These cells are disc-shaped, but they do have a center that indents towards itself, so that center part is much thinner. And since that center is thinner, there's less hemoglobin there, and that's why the center of the red blood cell looks paler. So let's look at it under the microscope. Start with a glass slide, and we'll throw on some red blood cells. So these are our normal red blood cells. They are disc-shaped with that center that appears paler, since there's less hemoglobin there. Now, anemia is a problem in that there is less of the red blood cell around in the blood. So you could have less red blood cells around. Maybe you're not making enough red blood cells, or you've lost some because you've lost blood, or maybe the red blood cells got destroyed, or any mix of that. So you have fewer red blood cells. Another possibility is that you have less hemoglobin inside of the red blood cells, so they look more see-through like here. Now, remember, there's a ton of hemoglobin inside red blood cells. Since 95% of the red blood cell is hemoglobin, if you have less hemoglobin around, that makes the cell have a smaller volume, and so they'll appear smaller, like this. There are lots of different causes and different types of anemia. I've already talked about sickle cell disease. I'm doing beta thalassemia next. If there is a certain type of anemia you want me to cover, let me know.